And here we are. We're at the verge of bankruptcy. We're moving into a new era. Believe it or not, with the dollar and our economy and the world economy, this is a new era.
Problems that we face here in this country, as well as the problem that the Federal Reserve faces, is that we're indeed between the rock and the hard place, because we have a serious problem. We don't talk about much how we got here. We talk about how we're going to patch it up.
What's your assessment of Ben Bernanke's performance so far?
It's been a disaster.
Did I not make myself clear? He's been a disaster. I mean, he's been printing much too much money since the beginning. Last summer, he bailed out his friends on Wall Street, said there was some kind of problem.
Why do you think that a recession is coming, and just how bad is it going to be?
I think it's going to be pretty bad, and whether it starts in 07 or 08, I think is immaterial, and I also think it's going to last not just for quarters, but for years. See, the basic problem with the U.S. economy is we have too much consumption and borrowing, and not enough production and saving. When you see the stock market come down and the real estate bubble burst, all that phony wealth is going to evaporate. And all that's going to be left is all the debt that we accumulated to foreigners.
Peter, I'm going to take a bet with you on this one. I'll bet you a penny on this one that if you'll sign a letter saying that if you're wrong, you'll sign a letter that you were wrong to me in this, but you're just way off base. There is nothing out there that tells us we're going to have a nice slowdown, but it's not going to be a crash.
All right, let me ask you this. All right, let me ask you this. All right, let me ask you this.
In close consultation with Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke, and SEC Chairman Chris Cox, I announced a plan on Friday. First, the plan is big enough to solve a serious problem. Under our proposal, the federal government would put up to $700 billion taxpayer dollars on the line to purchase troubled assets that are clogging the financial system, and it should be enacted as soon as possible.
What's going on in America today? Why are we over our heads in debt? Why can't the politicians bring debt under control? Why are so many people, often both parents now, working at low-paying, dead-end jobs and still making do with less? What's the future of the American economy and way of life? Why does the government tell us inflation is low when the buying power of our paychecks is declining at an alarming rate?
Are we headed into an economic crash of unprecedented proportions? One which will make the crash of 1929 and the Great Depression which followed look like a Sunday school picnic.
Well, the U.S. economy is headed for a major crash because our economic growth, particularly over the past 7 or 8 years, has been phony. Because our growth has been a function of how much we've borrowed and spent, not how much we saved and produced. Because you had millions of homeowners that really thought they won the lottery. They looked at home prices that had been bid up in a speculative bubble and assumed that that equity was legitimate wealth, and they borrowed trillions of dollars, collateralized by that, expecting that by the time the payments reset higher, they would have all this extra home equity that they can also tap into. And now that that is not panning out, Americans are losing their home equity. They're saddled with trillions of dollars of mortgages that we really can't afford to pay. And all the consumption that went along with the perception of real estate wealth is going to evaporate. And now you're going to see a collapse in our economy because it's 70% consumption and we can't consume anymore.
We know. You are of the view that Freddie and Fannie should fail.
They have failed. They have failed. They're just being bailed out by the United States government.
You think they shouldn't be bailed out?
They should not be bailed out. Christine, America's been around for 240 years or something as a republic. In that period of time, we built up debt of $5 trillion by elected officials. Now, we shouldn't have, but we did. Last weekend alone, we doubled the debt. $5 trillion more by people who are committing fraud, who are committing illegal activities, and now all of a sudden, not you, but all of us who are Americans are going to have to pay an extra $5 trillion in one weekend